recorded, and it's also going to be posted on our YouTube page, on Instagram, and I would also be posting the Instagram handles of our guest today. So go ahead and follow her. There are so many things you can gain. There are insights you can draw from today's conversation and from other things that she does. Let me say this for those of you who are not signed up to Diamond Lady yet, this is only the beginning of what you can get from Diamond Lady. Conversations like this. You would have the opportunity to meet in person. Um, and I make bold to say that you would have connections and and you will meet people that you probably would have much more than just a Diamond Lady relationship with. I think that this is a community that is going to become way much bigger than we anticipated or could have even seen. So again, welcome to this platform, welcome to this conversation. Please feel free to invite your friends to join in. It promises to be freeing and enlightening, right? I'll tell you a little about my guest, just a little, because she's not one to like her trumpet being blown. Um, but I'll just tell you a little bit. I know she won't do that for herself, so here it goes. Olaide Oluloyo is a finance leader and transformation advisor with over 20 years experience in non-profit sector. She currently serves as head of finance at Jesus House London and is the founder of Journey to Wealth, where she equips individuals, organizations to achieve financial confidence and create lasting impact. So when you hear things like this that somebody is doing, you will think, oh, it's just a profile. No. When you want to know somebody who is serious about what and very committed to what they do, they're usually working with non-profit organizations. Do you know what I mean? And it goes to show that it goes beyond getting money or getting paid as a consultant. It's more of a lifestyle. It's more of, something they want to give to the world. And so she's here with us today. We are fortunate to have her and to be able to grab her at this time. This conversation was supposed to happen last year on a separate platform, but Online Drug Creep has decided to bring this to every Diamond Lady. And we know that you are going to enjoy yourself tonight. So without further ado, I want to welcome our guest for today, Madam Olaide Oluloyo. Please welcome our guest.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's interesting
you.
when I was listening to you, I was just wondering who is Ayo talking about?
I know.
But thank you. I think I have to say thank you so much for having me on this platform. And hello, Diamond ladies. When I think about a diamond, I think that it's a precious stone. And so it means that every lady on this call tonight, yeah, is a precious lady. So it's really awesome to be in our midst this evening. How do you want us to swing it? Do you just want me to get into
So
it?
yes. So just give us a story of yours that will take you through to the end. So
Okay.
start with a let us know where you started from and how you have gotten to where you are now.
Okay. I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. I guess if I had to go back to where I guess today we're talking about, health and finances, so I would try and stay within that. But if I had to backtrack a little bit, um, I I trained as an accountant, so I guess for most of my life I'd always been in finance. But I was having a conversation last week where I said to someone that obviously being in finance, working in finance, and understanding finance are two different things. And
Mm,
that was potentially what I got to understand as I went through life. So
mm,
I grew up, I'll backtrack a bit and just a little bit about my upbringing. So I didn't really grow up with my parents because my parents were not in the country at the time. I was in Nigeria and I grew up with my grandparents. The truth is, I guess no one really gave me I don't know, any basis to understand, about finances or anything, but I was in that environment. But I just had an inkling for numbers. So I went into accounting because I loved numbers, not because I really wanted to understand finance. And then, being in Nigeria, we all understand economic climate. I didn't necessarily grow up with a silver spoon. And so when I came into I'm in the United Kingdom at the moment. When I came to the United Kingdom, you come into a different environment that, sometimes you're not prepared for. And that really happens to all of us. We have a sudden switch. So I came from an environment where if you wanted to get anything, you either had to work for it or just try and find how to access the funding for it. And I suddenly came into an environment where you literally were being begged to get credits for all the things that you wanted to get.
mm,
Obviously it's a bit tougher now. By the time I came in, oh my God, it was quite easy to get credit cards, to get store cards. And when we talk about health, a lot of times it's not necessarily just our bodily functions, it's also how our minds are set in a sense. So if you don't have a healthy mindset, then obviously there is something wrong in that area with regards, and it's the same thing. If we don't have a healthy mindset with regards to money, then there is something wrong with that intersection in a sense, because I came in and I suddenly had access to all of these things. So I used to tease that I'd go into a store to buy something and they would be like, "Oh, would you like a store card? You get 10% off." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, why not?" And I did that in so many stores. And I think at some point, I mean, for a student, I probably ended up with about £20,000 worth of debt. And at the time, for me, it was a case of what exactly have I actually spent this money on? You have all these things, you accumulate them. My room then at the time, it was full of so many things that I could not even wear because I didn't even have space to put them. So a lot of times I would forget I already bought something. I would go out and buy something again. When I was moving, I found three of the same item in three different sizes because clearly there was something wrong with the way my mind had been set up and my application to finance in a sense. It was all over the place. And the truth is that when our minds are not healthy, from that point of view, our decisions become very expensive. And that was
mm,
what was happening to me. I was making super duper expensive decisions without thinking them through. And every time, I felt overwhelmed. Every time I felt, maybe a bit sad because something wasn't quite going well, I would go out and spend. So even my spending became quite emotional, and I just found myself drowning and drowning before I got so, I had a day job. Like I said, I've been in the charity sector for over 20 years. I was excelling at my day job, but I was drowning on the inside personally because of a misalignment. So I guess I would start off by saying that our lives are not, we're not managing separate lives. We are managing one life that has
mm,
different outflows. So even when we talk about our health and money, we are managing the one life. It just happens that there are different aspects of our lives speaking into different things. So whilst I thought, well, I'm managing well in my career, but then the money bit was going out of control. It meant overall I wasn't
mm,
managing my life effectively. And the life that we have really responds to, I guess, the wholeness within us. So I think over time we have to understand that there is that correlation between our health and, in fact, I wouldn't use the word finance, I would use and our wealth. And we need to get it right because ultimately it costs us. Because things like when our minds are tired, like I said, decisions tend to become quite expensive. When our emotions are overwhelmed, our spending becomes very emotional. Because there were times then when I would just be sad about something. I'll pick up my card and just go to the shops to buy stuff, and I'll feel better. But guess what? The feeling was short-lived because it only satisfied us in the moment. But the minute I get back and I realize where I am or the situation
Mm,
I'm in, then it's like everything comes crumbling down. So if we don't have a steady mind, we are always going to make irrational decisions, but we're always going to get to points of regret because when we get to that point where suddenly there's light, it's like, oh, why did I do that? But that's because we hadn't regulated the health that needed to support the wealth in a sense. And that health could be bodily functions, it could be different things as well, but ultimately the way that our minds are structured is what I would say. So I would say that, when we're struggling from a health point of view, we would always produce a struggling financial outlook. So it's really important that we look after ourselves, body, soul, and spirit, so that ultimately we can have a healthy outlook towards the way that our money functions. Because I had to get to breaking point, and I think it was when I was getting married, where I suddenly realized that, oh my God, I have nothing saved. I think I had £100 in my account, and I had a closet and a room full of clothing that I hadn't even worn because I had gone crazy with spending. And some of the spend was maybe for me to feel like I belonged in certain circles, or I just wanted to feel like I didn't feel less than somebody else. Some of those decisions we take financially, they're feeding other aspects of our lives, or they're feeding off other aspects of our lives. And what I really would hope that, as Diamond Ladies, we can do tonight is begin to ask ourselves those deep questions. What are those triggers that make us do certain things that we do so that we can potentially align, a healthy lifestyle with a healthy financial lifestyle as well.
mm. Honestly, I think that your clarity and your openness is very refreshing because these are not things that people would tell you they went through.
No.
Everybody look like they've been good all the while. But thank you for doing this because you may not know this, but some of us listening to you are like, hmm, I think I need to go back and sit. What if it was a case of maybe not spending or buying? What if it was a case of overgiving?
And
How
that's another
how are
angle.
they
Yeah.
going to handle that kind of?
Yes. So I always say that every financial decision feeds off an emotional response.
Hmm.
There's something that we are trying to satisfy. So if it's not, sometimes when we want to spend on something, it's because we feel like what we're giving that money in exchange for is going to satisfy a desire, either or something we've always wanted, something that makes us feel a bit more fulfilled. It could be anything, it could even be, oh, I'm spending this money to train myself. It could be anything. In the same way, even our giving patterns is speaking to an emotional, something that is innate within us, that, an emotional need that we're trying to satisfy. And I'll give you an example. Even in my own personal life, sometimes I would feel the need to give something, but not because I'm actually being generous. It could be a case because I had to stop at certain points to question some of my giving decisions. Sometimes it would be a case of, oh, I just want to feel like I can give this person this thing. Or this person is always giving me, and I don't want to feel like I owe them anything. So I ultimately, there's almost like not a giving war, but you potentially want to feel in control. And sometimes that is what, we use. Money is supposed to be a tool, and the truth of the matter, it's a tool. But sometimes we allow it to drive our lives like it's in control. But no, we are supposed to be in the driver's seat, telling the money exactly where to go to satisfy the different areas of our lives without it controlling us. But sometimes what we do is that we put the money in the driver's seat to control emotions and needs and to satisfy them in the way that we think needs to happen. And that is what happens sometimes, even with giving. Now, there are people that are super duper generous, and I'm not taking away from that because I think it's a beautiful spirit to have. I'm a person of faith. It is what God encourages us to do, you know. I say that I'm a Christian, that even Jesus, God gave his son. He gave us everything, literally everything. So I understand the reason behind giving, but it's always to check what is the motive behind my giving. Am I giving because I feel like it would put me on the same? Because the minute the motive is wrong or the motive is completely warped, what happens is that it begins to drain us because we're no longer now giving from a place of, I guess, even abundance. We tend to also want to give from that place of scarcity. And I'm not talking about scarcity because we don't have the money, from a scarcity mindset point of view, because the motive is wrong and it's pushing us to do it in a different path. So you end up giving, and guess what it does? You become resentful because
Hmm.
you've given, but the motive is wrong. And you know what resentment does? It affects our health because when the more we're resentful, after a while it brews unforgiveness, and then certain things start to happen even in the body. And we're not even attributing it to certain decisions that we have made.
Hmm.
So for me, a lot of the financial issues, yes, it's not even like you rightly said, it's not spending, it's not, yeah, it could be given. Or sometimes just the fact that we want to show other people that we can do it, we are in control. We don't want to have them have a certain perception of us. So it gives us a sense of worth. So things like that means that we're no longer using money as the right tool that it should be. We're using it as a weapon. A weapon and a tool are
Hmm.
two different things. The minute you start to use
Hmm.
money as a weapon would, sometimes weapons are things that are dangerous. If you try to,
Yeah,
there's something that you
absolutely.
wait yeah, they have an adverse effect. So it's really ask ourselves, how am I using the money? And ultimately, what emotion is it invoking in me? How is that also affecting my mind? How potentially is it having an effect even on my health? Are things that we
Hmm.
should think about. So you're right, there are many factors to consider. There's so many,
Hmm.
many, many factors to consider. For someone like me, it was a case of I felt like I had grown up, and to get those fine things in life, I had to work for it. I had to, and so many times I didn't get it, and my friends had it. So I always felt like second, rate citizens to them because I thought this person has it, I don't have it. So I just never felt like I measured up, even though we were friends. There are friendships you can have or alliances where you don't feel like we're at par in a sense. So you always feel like the second cousin, the poorer cousin, which should not be the case. And what that then
Yeah.
happens, that the minute you come into a certain level of wealth, you begin to use that to what's it called, to feed or to answer or to respond to that
That
brokenness
emptiness, that
that had
brokenness
not been
inside of
resolved.
you. Yeah.
Yes, it's a deeper issue. So, what I needed to deal with was the low self-esteem from my upbringing, and I wasn't supposed to use spending and getting into debt as the response to that. But sometimes we have to go through experience to learn, because no one taught me. The experience had to teach me, but I had to get to a breaking point. Obviously, get to a point where I'm now about to transition into a new season. Suddenly, I realize, oh my God, I only have a
What am
hundred
I
pounds
doing?
and I have 20,000 pounds worth of debt. Clothing, which even when I got married, we didn't have enough space for me to move them into the house. My husband said, you have to put them in the garage. There's no space. Guess what? Eventually, the rats got into the garage. And one day I went there and they had literally even eaten about half of the clothing. So I say
Oh
that to
Lord.
say that if we don't get our priorities right, yes, we make decisions based on our emotional state,
Láńre
and
ṣó
it
máa fi
costs
nǹkan
us.
gbáyàn fún
And it costs us.
don't be naughty, you work normal,
Please
you fẹ́ fi
mute
nǹkan
your
gbá
mic.
màmá ní màmá
So
kan
I
ń
need to,
síbò ni.
you might need to mute them.
Yeah,
I was
Yes.
expecting pé wàá yà
Yes.
fún wọn àgbà tí mo rí pé o súnmọ́ wọn pẹ́kípẹ́kí. Ah,
Sorry, do you mind
ṣàánú mi ò
muting so
ní
that we
dáràn
sorry
can
o.
hear each
about
other?
that.
Ìwọ mọ̀ bóyá ẹni tó
No,
fẹ́
that's
gbà ó
fine. That's
yàlè
no
ni.
problem. Yes.
I think we're good.
So yeah, so that for me. So you're absolutely right. And I think the story, I mean, I can't really see who's on the call, but The story, we all have different backgrounds. We have different
Mm.
upbringings. There are probably different reasons why we've come into Diamond Women. So it means we all have different needs, different desires, and all of that, different circumstances. But ultimately, there's certain principles that are the same, that if we all apply them, whilst the end result
Mm.
would reflect the state of our lives and who we are and our journeys, but ultimately the resulting impact would be the same. So, irrespective of why we're on the call, where we've joined from, why we're in the group, it's really beginning to understand what drives us. What kind of money mindsets do we have? How does this affect our health? How do you feel? And it's little questions that I ask people, if you feel like you have a job that is a low paying job, what emotion does it invoke in you? Because that tells us the kind of things that ultimately may look like their ordinary day decisions or ordinary life that is happening, but ultimately affecting our health. I find people that go into depression because they feel like I can't, every time they say to us, I go out with my friends and I can't afford to buy the kind of things they buy, and they've slipped into depressive states. They have mental health issues. These are real life issues based on pressures that maybe life has not even placed on, but have been
Based on
self
you,
imposed
it's
as a result
self-imposed.
of unresolved trauma.
Hmm.
And trauma is potential sickness. So if we don't get healthy by putting our emotions in check, it would influence the way that we handle our finances.
Ah, honestly, these things you're saying, sis, these things you're saying, they are real. Okay, so
But they
tell
are
me,
real, but
I'm
we don't
very
talk about
curious.
it.
Yes. I'm very curious, yes. How did you deal with the debt? Like, what practical steps do you take? And applying to every other person's life, what practical steps can we take to get out of
Okay.
financial situations?
Okay. Okay, so I think the first thing that I would say is don't ever think before I even get into the practical stuff. I think sometimes the reason that, because I tend to ask people, why don't suffer alone. Don't feel like you don't want
Hmm.
anybody to know. Everybody wants to put their best foot
Yes.
forward. I have a group of friends. We're very open with each other. We tell each other about the fine. I had lunch with one of them today. We were talking about investments and money, and I was sharing with her that. Oh, but she was like, "Look, like it doesn't have to be a lot. You can." And this is me in finance. I'm not ashamed to ask. If my friend who is not even in the same field, I feel like there's something I want to learn here. But I realize that a lot of people, particularly women, we don't really open up. So we'll do the whole thing like, I mean, a lot of us are in Nigeria. Oh, there's a party coming up. There's Ashwebi. Even if we have to go and borrow to buy the Ashwebi, we'll attend the party. Everybody puts their best. But we don't really have those real conversations. But I think, first of all, that cloud is broken in the space of realness, the ability to be vulnerable and to have but I know that it takes trust. But the first thing I wanted to say, even before we get to the steps, is if there's anyone at all on this call that is in that space of financial pressure, I need you to hear this clearly. You
Hmm.
are not alone, and it is not the end.
Hmm.
Because that in itself should help to reframe something in our minds. You're not alone, it is not the end. I always say that to people because that when I say that, I almost see like a sigh of relief. Like, okay, first of all, think about that.
Hmm.
Now, a lot of the steps, I mean, I'll probably share something at the end, which is like a reset model. I teach it, over like half a day, but I'll go through some key steps just to give us some meat, but I'll do that at the end. But the first thing I always say is that you cannot face a battle that you're running away from. Imagine if there is a battle that you're supposed to fight in and you're running in the other direction. What happens? The enemy or whoever it is that you're fighting starts to run after you. Now you're running that, so you're backing them. Do you pretend? So you're exposed. I say
Yeah.
that to say that we cannot solve the issue in the first instance if we refuse to even look at what the problem is.
Hmm.
Sometimes we haven't even quantified. If I said to my clients, how much do you owe? Some people don't know. because when the letters come, so I don't know how, I guess Nigeria, you probably get letters or you get phone calls. Here, a lot of times is letters, emails. They've stopped opening their emails. They've stopped opening letters. Everything is that they've buried their head under the sand. And I say you can't do that because you cannot face or fight an enemy that you're unwilling to face. Now, you might
Mm.
face the enemy with trepidation because it looks like what the enemy or the potential battle is coming with looks like a lot. And it might just seem to you like, oh, this is a lot. But you must be able to face it. So open every message. So the first thing is even understand what is your current financial position? What do you
Mm.
owe? And be honest with yourself. This is an exercise that if this is somebody, you're not even doing it with anybody, so you are your own safe space. Open all those emails, open all those letters that you haven't opened in a while. List, what you owe. Be brutally honest. The family member, the sister that you owe money, the cousin, the uncle, the friend, those people that you hide from, where they'll not see you at a party, you don't want to greet them. They're coming this way, you're going that way because you don't want to, you don't want to jam like, where did you find money? Where did you find money to buy this
To
outfit?
get
Sometimes
there.
that happens. It's
And
like,
you
oh
are
my
wearing
God.
this
I have a
lace.
friend that said to me that, oh, she was, yeah. I had a friend that said sometimes because she was owing somebody money or people money in church, she would not want to come to church because she just felt that they'll be looking at her that you're owing money, but you're still coming to church. And those are valid feelings. But you
Yes.
see, we can't hide under the weight of those feelings because they affect our health as well. Let's bring this back to our health. They would affect our health because imagine if you were hiding, you were constantly being anxious. Anxiety can drive up your blood pressure. There's so many things. If we're not dealing with them, it's understanding the potential impact. I know people that would say they are literally about to die. I mean, God forbid, we've heard instances where people felt it was even too much and they didn't feel like they had anything to live for anymore. By
Mm.
God's grace, that is not anybody's portion here. But I'm saying that if it's not dealt with, it progresses.
Yeah.
But the minute you even understand, okay, what are we dealing with? Do that. And then so that will be one step. The first one is face it, no hiding. And the minute we say, I am ready to face you, it loses its power over us, I would
Mm.
say. That's the first step. Then I always say to people when I speak to clients that you have to stop the bleeding. So imagine if you hit your leg on something, and it starts to bleed. The first thing you're going to potentially try to do is even before you start to cover it with, say, plaster and all, you're going to try and clean it, maybe apply pressure to stop. They will say, sorry, apply pressure. They always say to you here, NHS will say, apply pressure to stop the bleeding. Once they stop the bleeding, then they can see the wound clearly to even determine, okay, does this need gauze? Does this need stitching? You can then determine the level of intervention required.
Quiet.
So before because sometimes I hear people say, oh, I want to buy a house. I want to do this, but you have so much debt. I say, before you grow, you have to be stable. If a child is trying to walk, they can't start running. They can't just start running if they haven't learned to walk or learned to even be stable. So I say, look at everything. Pause the things that are unnecessary, all those emotional spending triggers, just create some breathing space around the finances. So once you have an analysis of this is exactly what I owe, then where can I stop the bleeding? These are the things that potentially are taking out extra. Some of us don't even know what money goes on. Here, a lot of things go out by direct debit. When I then say to people, okay, can you even analyze, okay, you owe this, analyze what is leaving your bank account. Then they realize they've been paying for one gym membership for the past 10 years. They've never been to the gym in 10 years. There's so many things, but it's that ability. The minute you say, I want to even stop when money is bleeding, it starts to then open up our eyes to see where we can obviously apply pressure, pause, and then what kind of intervention does this need? Is it just a case of putting plaster, in which case the case of, okay, if I actually pause unnecessary spending, I can have extra money to channel back into paying some of these things, or actually, no, it needs full stitching. I can do the stitching with, they don't have to give me an aesthetic because it's not that bad. So maybe it's a case of, okay, I need to find other things as well to augment my income. Actually, but no, this is really bad and you need to be put to sleep, in which case it's like, okay, this is not working. I need a second job. I need,
Yeah.
it's really analyzing. I'm just trying to say that
Yeah.
once that is paused, once we stop that bleeding, and then build a repayment strategy, you know, prioritize. There's some loans here that they have crazy interest rates. I say to people, prioritize those first. Try and pay, some of, because if not, you'll find that the interest, is always over. Negotiate where possible. Don't run away from the people. Negotiate, draw out a payment plan, and stick to it. That's what I had to do. I had to look at everything. I had to negotiate where possible, put everything together. I knew that it took me 7 painful years to get through it. And in the 7 years there were so many sacrifices, but you have to think of the end result. And with that comes freedom, with that comes liberation of the mind, with that comes even a more healthy outlook, because now even what we're releasing into our bodies, they're aiding our health as opposed to working
Mm.
against our health because of the way that we're feeling, in a sense. And I think it's a real shift. It's really moving from that place where it's controlling us to a place of stewardship, where we're saying, okay, I'm not going to treat this casually. I'm going to start thinking about how best to get out of this situation, I would say.
Hmm. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask two in one question.
Okay.
How important is accountability in your journey to financial stability and freedom? Number two, um, where is the end point? Because sometimes some people are paying and it's looking like it's not ending. So where is um how do you prepare your mind for how long it's going to take for someone to get out of debt? How do you place your mind? I know you said it took you 7 painful years, right? Um, how does one stay consistent through the period of getting out of debt? Number one. Number two, how important is accountability?
Okay, I'll come back to accountability in a minute, but when you talk about how to prepare your mind for the journey, the first thing I would say is that freedom is not a moment, it is a system. So you can't just get there, or and systems depend on individuals as well. So it's not going to be the way that it worked for one person that it would work for the other person.
Yeah.
It's really thinking about, first of all, what are your figures? What is this? What does this person owe versus what does this person owe? Now, and I say to people that how long or how short it takes for you to work through it is really dependent on each and every person. I've seen people that when they did the figures, it was a case of, if all they were doing was working their day job and paying a certain consistent amount. But even with that, you have to think of the fact that life happens. So there are times where you make a seemingly perfect plan on paper, something happens, and it's like the plan goes out of the window. So there always has to be, whatever plan or system is in place has to be stress tested, has to be robust enough to be able to handle those situations or those times when life happens. But I saw them paid off in a shorter space of time, because they're not there to think, okay, if I'm just paying this off from my salary, it's going to take me this long. I have other skills. So they started to think about other streams of income, what else they could bring in to support the position. Because what happens is that the minute we get out of that mode of defeat, because what death does is that it tries to get you to stay down, like under the weight of something. The minute you decide I want to face it, even your mind is exposed to other things that you potentially can do, and in that space you begin to get other streams in that, if applied, potentially can help to cut it down in a shorter space of time. So I've had people that would say, "Oh, I've decided to go into other forms of business just to be able to get this out," or actually, what I've done is that I've paused a little bit, or I've taken a little bit out of what I'm paying to retrain myself to get a better job. So it's now also thinking on the journey of freedom is also not a stagnant journey. It should not be a journey of, for the next 7 years, all I'm doing is paying my debt. It should be a journey of growth. So whilst the debt repayment is happening, how are we getting better as women? What are we doing to improve ourselves to also increase our income base, increase our net worth, which ultimately will then help to shorten that journey and get us to a space where we can then start to think about the other areas, investments, and all of that. I would say that because sometimes we cannot go on a journey that we're living to just be paying debt. No, we're going on
No,
a journey
no.
of growth. Part of that growth includes getting rid of the debt, but it also speaks into us increasing, and expanding our net worth and even our network. And you talked about accountability. Our network support system, it is so important. The framework I teach when we go through this is something called the reset framework. Obviously, I can't go through everything, but one of it, the
Guys,
S
if
in
you
it.
want to know more about everything she is saying, I have put her Instagram handles. Please go follow immediately. She will be sharing more and more on her Instagram. She has events like this that she holds. Please go follow. I know that this conversation is not just happening. It's happening because somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to gain financial freedom. Somebody needs to live a wholesome and healthy life. So, Diamond ladies on this call, please go follow her. J2W_coaching on Instagram. That is her financial page. But you can also follow her because you will get more information at the e-image group. Please go follow. I've put it in the chat room. So please go follow immediately. Go ahead, Ma.
Thank you. So I was just going to very quickly because you spoke about accountability, and I think it's very, very important. So I wanted to just share that model very quickly. It's something I call the reset model to a healthy mindset. And obviously, I know that we're talking about our health and our finances this evening, but I want to say that it all starts in the mind. If we don't have healthy minds or healthy mindset, it affects our health ultimately. So it's very important that we get it right. So obviously not obviously the R itself is just talks about reflecting on the current mindset. And that also means reflecting on our current state. I already spoke about not running away from what it
No,
is,
yes.
looking at what happened and all of that, but reflecting on the current mindset. Some of us have scarcity mindset. I don't say that, because, I'm trying to have a dig at anyone, but what are our money values? What are our spending patterns? What stories do they tell us? What does our upbringing tell us about the way? For some of us, because, we were always told, oh, money does
Good
not grow
night,
on
Mr.
trees.
Basta.
Do you think money grows on trees? We've then adopted that mindset that is limiting, and we just never really think that money is for us. And
Mm,
when that happens, it affects our health. It affects the way we see ourselves. It affects our
mm,
image. It affects the way we feel on the inside, which ultimately affects even our outlook. So, different things like feeling overwhelmed, feeling guilty about past mistakes, feeling jealous about other people that seem to be doing quite well with money. Rather than being inspired by them, we're constantly measuring our success against them. All of those things speak into the way that we are. So I always say the first thing is reflect on the current mindset. And the
mm,
second one is then examine the current financial habits or your current financial state. And that is where what I had said before about what do you even owe? A scattered financial position would always affect the mind. Are we in control of our mind, of our monies? Are we in control? Do we even know where our money goes? Do we have budgets? Even before we get to the point of, oh, we know that we owe money, how much do we know that we owe, and all of that. So I always say we need to examine that. And the S is what you spoke about, accountability. Surround yourself with the right people. The journey to financial freedom can never be lived alone. We
mm,
need the right people. There's a saying that says that we're the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. Those people we surround ourselves with can have the most significant impact on our money mindset. And so we must surround ourselves with people who have that healthy relationship with money, who inspire us, and who will hold us accountable. But
Yeah.
accountability requires vulnerability. People cannot hold us accountable if they don't understand where we stand. If we just put up a front that says, I'm in control, there are no issues, I don't really have anything, they're just going to hold us to the level that we present to them, which is why it must be, a system of trust. But that accountability requires vulnerability, I would say. And then I say the E is empower the money. I always say that we must educate ourselves, we must invest in ourselves. So the journey to financial freedom is one of growth. It is not just sitting because we're trying to pay off debts because we find ourselves. No. How are we developing? How are we planning for the future? And also, ensuring that we put boundaries around the money. No is a powerful word on that journey to financial freedom. There are some parties, some ashwebi, some things that you outings that we will say no to whilst we're on a journey
Yeah.
because we have a picture in mind. And I say to my clients, I say to them, draw a visual representation of your end journey. Place it somewhere that you would see every single day so that when something that speaks against it comes at you, you have the power to say no because
Yeah.
you can see that this is where I'm going. I don't want to be detracted on this journey. And so that
Mm.
gives you a powerful picture. Prepare today for the needs of tomorrow. We must be willing to make those sacrifices.
Mm.
And T, I think health, they say, is wealth. And I say that a thankful mind gives us a healthy body. Because when we are thankful, there are things that it releases into our bodies because we're not stuck in the mistakes of the past. We look forward to what the potential for tomorrow holds. And that gives us a view to say, okay, yes, I may have made mistakes, but I'm not my mistakes. I can get up, but I'm thankful. So even if all you're saying is, I'm thankful that I have life, because what
Mm.
it does is that it gives me an opportunity to get my financial journey right. That in itself is a win. So it's a
Mm.
whole framework. Obviously, we sit with people and go through this and all of that. And I say to people, speak positive affirmations every single day, about our finances, our wealth, because it speaks to our bodies, it speaks to our souls, and it speaks to our spirits, I would say. So I think, like you said, yes, the journey could take, it depends, the length of time is really dependent on the person or the people and what adjustments, sacrifices they're willing
They're
to make,
willing
but
to make.
also how they decide to grow and scale on the journey. It makes a wealth of difference. Platforms like this, Diamond Women, add to that because you're learning from other people. You're thinking about how to scale. You're thinking about, what else you can do to increase your wealth. And wealth is not just, a lot of times we think it's just cash. There's social wealth as well, There's value for value exchange. There's so many things, that this currency that we hold and is beginning to understand the real currency that we have. And our accountability is non-negotiable in life. So like I said, we have the one life. They're just different streams flowing out of it. But since we're talking about the financial aspect, we need accountability. But we also need vulnerability to make the accountability work, I would say.
Oh, thank you so much. I have so many questions, but this is what I'm going to do. I want you to, by show of
Okay.
hands, show me that you want a part two. Just show me you want a part two because we have to book ahead though. Before we got today, it was not funny. I literally had to just jump on her, So by show of hands, let me know those who want a part two. Let me see your hand. If you don't show your hand, she's not coming back. Oh, guys, let me see your hand up there. Yes. A show of part two. We do want part two. Okay. So this is what we'll do, ma. Please, before the end of next quarter, we want you to come back. We want you to come back, and this time around, we literally will have resources. We want to take resources from you, either from your coaching sessions. And between now and then, I expect that everybody on this call has gone to go and follow. You need to get more information from her. She holds things like this that you register for. don't throw away this kind of wealth of wisdom, even if not for you, for those that are coming behind you, for those that you work with. Some of you people will walk to you and say, I am in this kind of situation. You need to have this kind of knowledge to be able to free other people. And for anyone on this call who is not yet a diamond lady, by that I mean you have not subscribed to become a diamond lady. There is so much more beyond these conversations that you're going to miss out of. So I'm going to say, go to Online Job Creep and just say hello. Go to our page and just say hello. I'm going to put up the link right here. We want part two. Thank you. I think that I don't want to keep her anymore further because I said it was going to be a 30 minutes conversation. In my mind, I knew that it was not going to happen. And we've already gone an hour. I want to thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Madam Lady, for coming on this call. The recording is going to be shared on my page. My YouTube page is Online Drug Creep. Just like the name says, Online Drug Creep. So you just look for us, follow us. You will get this link. You can also get it on Madam Laide's Instagram page. It's going to be there for you. Probably the shorter version, but the longer version will be on YouTube. So thank you all for joining this call. Oh gosh, I don't want it to end because I feel like we didn't even touch a few things that we should have. So, well, thank you all for joining, and thank you so much, Ma, for this time. We look forward to having you again next quarter.
Thank you so much.
Any
Thank you.
closing
Thank you,
words for
everyone.
us, Ma?
I just wanted to say that if there's any woman at all that is listening to me that feels like they're drowning under the weight of financial pressure and it's affecting their health, just remember, like I said earlier, that you are not alone and it is not the end. And all you need to do is make a decision that you want today, this very moment, to be the beginning of your walk of freedom. And so don't hide from the battle. You can't fight what you run away from. Face it. Find the right people. There's so many people in your network that believe in you and want to see you fly and succeed. So take that tentative step towards walking that journey of freedom. But I just want to say, don't ever think that it is the end, and don't ever think that you're alone.
Thank you so much. I think that if you were really
Thank
serious
you.
about this and you were listening to everything she was saying, you would be running right now to reach out to her. Thank you so much, Ma, again. I don't want to take this further. God bless you. God
Thank
bless you.
you.
God bless you. Thank you all for
God
joining
bless
me.
you too. Thank
See
you.
you all next time. Bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Bye.